Facebook and other social media sites came under scrutiny after the last US election for being conduits for Russian meddling. And this time around, Facebook is accused again of not doing enough to curb the spread of dis and misinformation. So what influence is the site having on people's voting intentions as tomorrow's vote looms? Here's Michael Brand, who's Adjunct Associate Professor of Data Science and Artificial Intelligence at Monash University. Hi, Michael. So firstly, why is Facebook being singled out for the most criticism rather than other social media platforms?
Well, thank you for having me, Ros. The reason why Facebook is singled out is because Facebook as a site has about 1/8 of the time that people spend online. That is more than any other site in the world. If you look at all of what Facebook has in its portfolio, that includes WhatsApp, Messenger, all of those things, that amounts to almost 20% of a person's online time. That, together with Google, is 40%. The next runner-up is Microsoft at 3.4%. So this is really a battle of very few giants. And when a person is online on Facebook, on the site, a person is inside a laboratory of stimuli and responses. We get measured all the time, we get influenced all the time, and the equations that relate what to do in order to influence us in which direction are measured to decimal precision. So Facebook is really not like any other social media.
So what influence do you estimate Facebook has had on the 2020 presidential election, and in which direction?
So Facebook has massive influence all the time. Facebook started almost 10 years ago to actively meddle in politics, tinkering in people's political activity. They have published in Science, they have published in Nature, showing that their ability to change people's votes or to make people vote influences more than 1/3 of a million people, and that was just in a 60 million person experiment. Now, all of their tools are being deployed for every US citizen, and we're talking about an effect that is at the very least, 1% of the total vote. And we're talking about a country where an election was decided based on 537 votes. That was the Bush versus Gore election. So being able to swing 1 million votes one way or another is definitively something that can decide an election. In terms of the direction, sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
No, you go. You were going to say the direction.
Yes, you asked previously about the direction in which Facebook is influencing the election. That is something that we can't measure definitively, but it is something that we can know about based on what Facebook itself is saying and what employees and former employees of Facebook are saying. The reason why we can't measure it directly is because Facebook is not a transparent organization. They are very secretive about what they do. They're very secretive about how they do what they do. So unless they decide to publish, and they've only a few years back decided to stop making major publications, so now we're mainly relying on what they say, it's difficult to say. But what we are seeing and what has been measured is a major influence towards polarization. And just very recently, studies have been published that have compared different social media in terms of how they affect people's interactions with politics. And what has been measured quite substantially is that Facebook is making people, especially people on the conservative end of the spectrum, a lot more polarized. And by contrast, people who spent their time on Reddit became far more, or let's say far less polarized. And people on Twitter, which I think is the expected comparison, simply were not affected. What their opinions were or what their reading habits were, which is how this study was measuring, remained the same.
And Facebook and its creator, Mark Zuckerberg, have come under sustained criticism since 2016. So what changes has it made since then?
Well, Facebook's criticisms started in earnest with a an article that was published by Gizmodo in 2016 where an ex-Facebook employee accused Facebook's trending feature of liberal bias. And the reason why was because it was using human editors, mainly people from California, who had liberal biases and edited in that spirit. As a result of that criticism, the entire editorial staff was fired, and decisions about trending features became completely automated. So what was decided as a trending feature depended only on whether it really was trending, which is to say whether a specific amount of it existed. Once a specific threshold amount existed, the trending feature boosted it and made it viral. And what happened as a result of that is what we call adversarial machine learning. Immediately, bot armies were deployed in order to create false news into trending features, which boosted them and made them viral and is the source of what we're seeing today. The free speech is really being hijacked.
Michael Brand, good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.